I was standing in the middle of my coach's office, still in my sweaty practice jersey, reading a text from my mom that said they'd already withdrawn me from the team, and I hadn't even been asked. Let me back up. My name is Jordan, I'm 17, and up until about 4 months ago, I was a swimmer. Not like a casual, summer league, splashing around kind of swimmer. I mean a 5 days a week, morning practices before school, chlorine permanently in my hair kind of swimmer. I'd been on my club team since I was 11 and on my high school's varsity team since freshman year. Swimming was the thing that made sense to me when nothing else did. You know that feeling when you're underwater and the world just goes quiet? That was my reset button. Bad day at school, fight with a friend, bombed a test, didn't matter. The second I hit the water, everything got still. My coach, Coach Reeves, always said I had something extra, and even though I wasn't breaking any state records, I'd been dropping time consistently every season. Junior year was supposed to be the year I went after a sectional cut in the 200 free. I had a real shot. My teammates felt like family, especially my friend Danny, who'd been swimming with me since we were 12. We carpooled to morning practice, we suffered through dry land together. We had this whole ritual of getting smoothies after Saturday meets. My parents came to every single one of my meets. They sat in the bleachers, they cheered, they posted pictures. From the outside, it looked like they were all in on swimming, and I genuinely believed they were. Here's what I didn't see clearly until all of this blew up. My parents had been slowly shifting for a while. It started around the end of sophomore year when my older cousin Priya got into Georgetown. The whole family lost their minds. It was all anyone talked about at every gathering for months. Priya did Model UN, she was president of her school's debate team, she interned at a local congressman's office, and she wrote her college essay about policy reform. She was brilliant, don't get me wrong. But after that, something changed in my house. My mom started following all these college admissions accounts. My dad started casually dropping phrases like well-rounded applicant and demonstrated leadership. They'd never talked like that before. Dinner conversations slowly became less about how my day went and more about what I was building for my future. And the thing is, swimming didn't fit their new vision. It's not that they said it out loud, not at first, but I noticed these little comments. My mom would say things like, swimming is great, but colleges want to see intellectual extracurriculars too. My dad once said, unless you're getting a D1 scholarship, what's the strategy here? Strategy. Like my entire life was supposed to be a chess game. They started printing out lists of extracurriculars that top applicants had on their resumes. Debate club came up a lot. So did mock trial. I didn't think much of it at the time because I figured they were just being typical overeager parents. I didn't realize they were building a case. The actual moment everything fell apart was a Tuesday in October. I came home from practice, a great practice actually, where I'd hit a new personal best in my 200 free interval set, and both my parents were sitting at the kitchen table with their laptops open. That's never a good sign. My mom told me to sit down, and I remember my stomach just dropping because it felt like an ambush. My dad started by saying they'd been doing a lot of thinking, and that they needed to have a serious conversation about priorities. Then my mom pulled up this spreadsheet, and I am not exaggerating, it was a literal color-coded spreadsheet of my weekly schedule. Swimming was highlighted in red. Everything else was in green or blue. She said, Jordan, you're spending 22 hours a week on swimming. That's almost a part-time job, and it's taking time away from things that will actually matter for your applications. I tried to stay calm. I said, swimming matters to me, and colleges do care about athletics. My dad shook his head and said, not unless you're being recruited, and let's be honest, that's not where this is going. That one hit me right in the chest. Because he wasn't entirely wrong, I probably wasn't going to swim at a D1 program. But the way he said it, so flatly, like my years of work were just a dead-end hobby, it made me feel about 2 inches tall. Then came the real bomb. My mom said they'd already enrolled me in a debate prep program that met 3 times a week, and that they'd spoken to the school's mock trial advisor about getting me on the team. When I asked when this was supposed to happen, she said, we already told Coach Reeves you'd be stepping back from the team after this month. I just stared at her. I literally could not form words. They had gone behind my back, talked to my coach, and planned my entire schedule without once asking me what I wanted. The next few weeks were the worst of my life. I tried arguing. I tried bargaining. I said I'd do debate and swimming and I'd figure out the schedule. My mom said it wasn't sustainable. I showed them articles about how colleges value long-term commitment to a sport. My dad said those articles were cherry-picked. I went to Coach Reeves, who was clearly uncomfortable because he didn't want to get in the middle of it, but also told me honestly that he thought my parents were making a mistake. He said he'd seen this before, parents pulling kids out of the thing they loved because of some admissions consultant's Instagram post, but he couldn't override them. I was a minor. When I told Danny, she cried, actually cried. She said it wouldn't be the same without me and that she didn't understand how my parents could just rip me out of something I'd been doing for 6 years. That made me cry too, and then the anger came. I stopped talking to my parents at dinner. I'd come home, go to my room, and shut the door. When I had to go to debate prep, I sat in the back and barely participated. I know that was petty, I know it, but I was so mad that it felt like the only form of protest I had. My mom noticed and said I was being childish. My dad said, "One day you'll thank us." That sentence made me want to scream because it wasn't a conversation, it was a verdict they'd already decided on, and I was just supposed to accept it. The worst part was that some of my parents' friends actually agreed with them. At a dinner party, I overheard my aunt say, "Swimming is fun, but it's not going to get her into a top school." Like that's the only thing that matters. Like the only reason to do anything is because it looks good on a piece of paper. Here's where I messed up, and I'll own it. About 6 weeks into this whole nightmare, I found out that my high school team's schedule had a conflict with one of my debate tournaments. The tournament was on a Saturday, the same Saturday as a big dual meet against our rival school. I told my parents I was going to the debate tournament. I left the house that morning dressed for debate, and then I drove to the swim meet instead. Danny had kept my spot on the relay as an alternate, and Coach Reeves, who probably should have said no, let me swim. I raced my 200 free. I raced the relay. I had one of the best meets of my life. And then on Monday, my mom got an email from the debate coach asking if I was feeling better because I'd called in sick. She checked my location history. She saw I'd been at the school natatorium. The look on her face when she confronted me wasn't even anger, it was something worse. It was this deep, tired disappointment, like I'd confirmed something she already feared about me. She said, "We are trying to give you a future and you're lying to our faces." And honestly, she wasn't wrong about the lying part. That was wrong. I shouldn't have done it that way. But what she said next is the part that broke something between us. She said, "This is exactly why we had to make this decision for you, because you clearly can't make good ones yourself." My dad found out the next day, and unlike my mom, he wasn't quiet about it. He yelled. He said I'd embarrassed them, that I'd proven I couldn't be trusted, and that swimming was now completely off the table, including summer club. He called Coach Reeves and told him not to let me practice, ever. Coach Reeves called me that night and said very gently that his hands were tied. I could hear in his voice that he was angry on my behalf, but there was nothing he could do. I sat on my bedroom floor after that call and just stared at the ceiling for a long time. But here's the thing that really changed everything. About 2 weeks later, I was on my mom's laptop looking for a document she'd asked me to print, and I found an email thread between her and a private college admissions consultant. The emails went back 8 months, long before the kitchen table conversation. In one of them, the consultant had written, "Swimming is a common extracurricular and won't differentiate her. I'd recommend pivoting to speech and debate or mock trial, which demonstrate analytical thinking." And my mom had replied, "We agree. We just need to figure out the right time to tell her." 8 months. They had been planning this for 8 months while still sitting in the bleachers, still cheering, still posting photos. Every smile, every great race, honey, they already knew they were going to pull me out. They were just waiting for the right moment to break the news. That felt like the worst kind of betrayal, because it meant every supportive thing they'd done in those months was a performance. So here's where I am right now. It's been about 3 months since all of this happened. I'm doing debate. I don't hate it as much as I expected to, which honestly makes me feel guilty, like I'm betraying myself or something. I still haven't been back in the pool. Danny and I are still close, but there's this gap now because she's living the life I was supposed to have, and we both know it. My parents and I are civil, but something is different. The trust goes both ways. They don't fully trust me because I lied, and I don't fully trust them because they planned this behind my back for the better part of a year. My mom keeps saying that when I get into a great college, I'll understand. Maybe she's right. Maybe in 5 years I'll look back and think they made the smart call. But right now it doesn't feel smart. It feels like they took the thing that made me happiest and sacrificed it on the altar of a college admissions strategy that might not even work. And I lied to get it back for one day, which I know was wrong, but I don't know what else I was supposed to do when nobody was listening to me. So I need to know, was I wrong for lying? Or were my parents wrong for not giving me a choice in the first place? And does it even matter who was wrong if the damage is already done?